I'm looking for Josey Wales.
That'd be me. Sometimes trouble just follows a man. That's just the way it is.
Hound this Wales to kingdom come.
Josey Wales, he's an anti-hero. Very ruthless, but at the same time, every step of his is very calculated.
An anti-hero is a character that disrupts established societal norms and makes us look at the way society is constructed and the mechanisms of our society and culture in radically new ways.
Well, you're gonna pull those pistols and whistle Dixie.
Josey Wales' character is anti-authority, but even in defying that authority and doing what is most appropriate, he does so without losing a sense of his personal integrity.
Josey Wales will do things in the course of his story that we, the audience, may not go along with, but somehow the ends justify the means.
Howdy.
I thought you might be someone who would sneak up behind me with a gun.
Where'd you ever get an idea like that?
An outlaw is somebody for whom sees themselves as too big for society. They see themselves as belonging to a non-conventional world, and they really see themselves as having no other choice except to live outside of society.
How come you're doing this then?
Because I got nothing better to do.
Outlaws, in its most simplistic definition, really are people who live outside of the law. But an antihero can be an antihero without being an outlaw. Many people think of Batman as an antihero, but they don't necessarily characterize Batman as an outlaw. So you can be an antihero and an outlaw, or you can be just the antihero.
I think Josey Wales is both.
He is an outlaw. That's why we see him in a very, very ruthless character, and he doesn't stop. He doesn't stop at all.
Outlaw characters, they allow us to spit in the face of established norms.
It can do most anything.
How was it with Staines?
Josey Wales. He is driven by his need to avenge not just the death of his wife and his child, but the brutal way in which they were taken away from him.
Lord gives, Lord takes away.
It gives him permission to move forward in seeking that vengeance by any means necessary. And it poses the question to the audience, what would you do in this situation?
You have a character that the audience can project upon. The character has strengths and weaknesses, virtues and lack of virtues. He's riddled with a lot of angst.
Hell with them fellas. Buzzards gotta eat, same as worms.
But he still manages to keep going, and I think this is really what draws people to this character.
Josey Wales' actions are motivated less by being angry at or disturbed about the ways in which corruption happens. Josey Wales treats the whole idea of corruption coming from an angle of protecting those that he loves.
This boy was brought up in a time of blood and dying and never questioned a bit of it. I rode with him. I got no complaints.
Josey Wales, he is an antagonist, he's a protagonist, all of those things, and he's a very, very hybrid character.
The character in Outlaw Josey Wales, to me, is not really an anti-hero because he's completely morally justified in everything he does. Basically, everyone else in Josey Wales is worse than him, who he comes up against. He's more violent. You wouldn't necessarily have Gary Cooper or John Wayne blast as many guys away as graphically as Josey Wales does. But the moral underpinnings are still kind of the same.
Josey Wales is an anti-hero, but not in the classical sense. The anti-heroes that appear in the classical era of Hollywood, we identified with these characters as cautionary tales, and these characters would always get their comeuppance. They could never ride off into the sunset and just live happily ever after.
Why don't you stay with us? Maybe they'll forget you.
You know there ain't no forgetting.
Over time, though, as culture changes and as society changes, we understand that the good guys don't just wear white anymore and the bad guys don't just wear black anymore, but that there's a lot of gray. This is what allows the morality of the antihero to take center stage.
I came here to die with you. Or live with you. Dying ain't so hard for men like you and me. It's living that's hard. And I'm saying that men can live together without butchering one another.
Audiences find that character, Josey Wales, appealing because he's not that stereotypical good guy. He's flawed, just like all the rest of us are flawed.
It is psychological wish fulfillment. We see ourselves on screen. So things that we probably cannot do, Josey Wales would do for us.
The classic white hat heroes of the earlier part of the 20th century, they were in alignment with traditional values, but then something happens. We begin to see society fragment, and by the time we get to the 60s, the dominant myth associated with the Western begins to crumble.
There is an element of challenging the national mythology by which our national narrative is constructed.
Josey Wales is a Western hero for a world where we've lost faith in some of the values that the earlier Westerns were promoting. By the time you get to the 60s and 70s and Vietnam and Watergate, the values of Gary Cooper, the values of John Wayne are no longer really going to hold for a popular audience.
And we've reached a point where the world isn't that simple anymore, and we have to grapple with the gray.
What do you say, Mr. Wilson?
I reckon so.